All right, everyone. Again, this is Brett Feldman with Dooap. We are here today for one of our first bi-monthly webinars, just walking through Dooap at a high level, showing you what to expect from Dooap and setting the tee up to answer any questions you might have on the platform and providing insight into what we do. So I'm going to hand this off to Amanda, but if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat room to the right of your screen. Answer those or ask those questions, and then we will address those questions in the order they came in. So I will hand this over to Amanda, and we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amanda. I am a solutions consultant with Dooap, and I handle the implementations and support of the product. Our first slide is going to be why Dooap. So we're an accounts payable automation for the Dynamics AX 2012 and 365 FO platform. We're 100% paperless, designed to help lower the cost of processing invoices manually and increase the efficiency within the AP department. We were built from the ground up in Microsoft's Azure cloud and designed specifically to integrate with Dynamics 365 and AX 2012. We live outside of Dynamics and integrate seamlessly by utilizing the master data and business logic in real time. We have 10 plus years of Dynamics and AX consulting experience within the company, and so we're keeping up with the changes in the Dynamics community and putting that into place in our software. So now I'm going to hop over into the demo portion. We utilize single sign-on, so your Microsoft users will have an account set up. And so once you're logged into the Dynamics system, and like I explained earlier, we live outside, so I'm going to go into our demo environment. And what we see first is our workspace. So this is where you're going to do most of your work. I'm in as an AP currently. Your approvers and reviewers will also come into this screen. A general overview of this screen is up at the top, we have our module selection. This is going to be permission dependent. So right now I have all the permissions, and so I can see all the module selections. At the top, you'll see the workflow, and this is the workflow for the current active invoice. The invoices are displayed in the Kanban style, showing the user a quick view of the active invoice waiting for your action, the previous invoices processed, and the next invoices waiting in the queue. Over on the side, you'll see a clear picture of the invoice image. You can do a couple of things here. We can open it as a PDF. We can open it in a new window. We can collapse it to remove it from view. We can also see the XML, which is what we use to pull information and match it with information in Dynamics. We have our history, and then we have the ability to add attachments, draw, add comments, and erase any of those comments that we've added on top of the image. We can also zoom into that image. If your image comes in with multiple pages, those will be displayed here, and you would be able to click through them. Over on the side, you'll see that we have one active invoice that pulls in automatically. Now, if we didn't want to use that invoice at this time, we could move it down by clicking the plus sign and clicking the down arrow to remove it from our active invoices. What it's looking at is a couple of different things, but most importantly, it's looking for the earliest due date. So you'll be able to process things in the order that they need to be processed, starting with the earliest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move a couple of these up. And I can move two up at the same time or more by clicking the control button. And then I can move them up using either of these buttons or a hotkey. This button here is going to replace whatever was in active invoices, and this one's going to move these up along with whatever's in active invoices. So once I move those up, I can handle them. So I've moved up a non-PO and a PO. And these have a couple different workbenches that we work in within them. So I'll show that to you now. So I'll start with a non-PO. When we open up using the plus sign, it opens up the non-PO coding. So here I have one line coded. If I wanted to add another line, I could by clicking add new line. So I'm going to adjust this amount really fast. You'll see that it changes my remaining amount looking at the total amount. And I can add more coding lines. And I can do that by either starting to type the name of the account or the account number. So I'm just going to select something here, and you're going to see it's going to fetch the dimensions directly from your dynamics. And so it's going to look at your account structures and pull those coding combinations in for you, and then you select from there. Up here at the top, you'll see this header data. This is configurable based on your preferences. So you'll see we have our company, our vendor. The vendor name is static based on the vendor that you select here. Your invoice number, the type of invoice is non-PO here. Our next one will be PO. And then our total amount and dates. We have the ability to add and update what we see over here in the gear. And what is cool about it is it's based on the user that's logged in. So if your preference is to, not have method of payment showing or to have the bank account show, when you select that and you make that your search, it's going to display like that whenever you come in the next time. So it's going to automatically save that for your particular user account. Once we're done coding this line, so let me put in, and we have 120, 30. There we go. You'll see that it automatically and dynamically changes the remaining amount to 0. And so once we have completed that, we can click approved. We can also remove lines, copy lines, and paste them between invoices or within the same invoice. And we can also change the type. So if you wanted to do a project type, you could select project and you would have project lines show up at the bottom as well. So now let's go in to a PO. And you'll see that the PO looks a little bit different. The workbench here, what it's doing is it's looking for a PO within the XML. So if it has an XML document, it's going to pull in that data using data points and mappings. And it's going to look into the Dynamics site to see if that PO exists and pull in those matching lines. If it's a three-way match, it will need to be received and will pull in automatically the purchase, the product receipt as well. If we click into this, you'll see that we can change or add or remove PO and PRs. So I'll just go ahead and just 2157. You'll see if I go and find that one again, it's automatically pulling in any receipt that's associated with that PO. Once I click done, it's fetching the lines. You'll see here it's going to update because this is if I fetch the lines here, you'll see that it'll update this to the original amount. And we can change the matching quantity and the matching price. To match our invoice. And you'll see that the difference is 0. And we have the ability to put in tolerances for the PO. So if you have a tolerance of 1, it will let you move it along in the in the process. Same thing here, you'll press the accept. Right now we have 2 in our active invoices, so if I press accept, it's going to automatically pull both of those along if there are no errors. And you would know if there is an error if there was a red dot up here at the top. A little bit about the workflows. We have the ability to do presets. So if I click here, you'll see that there's a handful of preset workflows that we have set up for our demo environment. Now, with specific vendors, we can have a workflow automatically pull in, or it can come in as just accounts payable, and then they select the workflow from there. Depending on your permissions, you'll see that we can change the handler of the next approver step or reviewer step in our workflow. We can add another approver. We can do that either by clicking here or clicking here, and you can choose add a new approver, and we can select from the group who is given the ability to approve. Now, if we look at this other one that I had pulled up, we have some kind of robust ways we can set up our workflows. You'll see here it's showing the top line, but if you look, there's a little down arrow, and if I click on that, you'll see that I've split out this workflow. So in this case, we have me as the accounts payable, and then the next step, it's going to go to both Kristen and this admin as a reviewer. And then from there, they're going to have their respective workflows. So they both go to Anna in this situation, but it could be 2 different people. And then Benjamin only kicks in at $5,000. So if the invoice is less than that, it's just going to bypass Benjamin. Benjamin only needs to do it conditionally. Once we've sent these through, they'll go into transfer to payment. And from there, the AP can go in and transfer those to D365. And it's set up the same way. We have a global search up at the top, and that is going to be every invoice that you can possibly search for in the system that you have access to. We also have this smaller filter search, and that's going to be anything on this particular page. So you'll see that I've selected the Landy originally, and it went ahead and filtered for Landy. So if I come in here and let's just click on this, you'll see that it automatically filters for any Acme. And the benefit of that is that it's going to filter your previous invoices as well. And so if you code something the same each time, you'll be able to open up that and you can copy the coding lines, or you can just kind of see what has been processed in the past and how it was processed. Another cool feature is that we can impersonate, we can add a substitute here. And so it's like assigning a delegate. A delegate can be assigned for if you're going on a vacation, you can go ahead and delegate out your work to someone while you're gone. Or I'll show you here in a minute when we go into the mobile that you'll be able to do it on the go. And you can put in a start and an end date, and you can set up multiple at one time. So if you're taking vacation multiple times, you could go ahead and set those up. In our admin menu, we have the ability for our admins to log in as another user. So if I wanted to impersonate a user, I could come in here. So say they were having a problem and I needed to troubleshoot and I needed to see what they see because I have all the access and they're just an approver. You would be able to impersonate that user. Or if there was a situation where you needed to go in and impersonate a user, you would be able to do that. You'll also see up here that there's a lot of information here, and this is all maintained by the admin. So you would be able to see all the companies that you've pulled in, the vendors that have pulled in from dynamics, and you would be able to run those imports if needed. So if you added a new vendor, you could come in and import those vendors here. All right, so I am going to hop over into the mobile real quick. So let me get that queued up. All right, so this is our mobile app. And this is a really convenient and easy to use application that is available for in the Apple Play or Google, so in all your stores, for your app stores, for Apple and Android. So you'll see here whenever we come in to the screen, it's a stack of cards essentially, and these are going to be the invoices that need to be approved. And this is a great tool for your approvers. If we get to the stack of cards, you'll see that I can swipe to the left to move it to the back. Basically, I'm skipping this card. I don't want to handle this one yet. I'm moving it to the back of the stack. We can also approve it by swiping right. And if we accidentally do that, we do get the option to undo. You'll see here, this is just a general overview, but if we want to open this invoice, we can either tap on it or click the Open This Invoice button. And there's a few screens in here to discuss. So there is your detail screen. So this is your header information. If we swipe to the right, you'll see your invoice image. And if you click on it, you can zoom in with the pinch zoom. If we swipe right again, or left again, you can see that it has my workflow. So this one's not a good example of a workflow, but if we go into another one, I'll show you that workflow real quick. Let's see, this one should be. So you'll see that we have next approver, the current approver, and who it's been approved by in the past. If we swipe over again, you'll see that we can add comments, and these comments are moving between the systems. So the comments that are added here are also added in the desktop version as well. And then the really cool thing is that we can actually code from, if they have the permission, your approvers would be able to code directly from this. And this is a non-PO. So in this situation, for our non-POs, we would be able to edit the coding line or add new coding lines. And then if there was a history of this, let's go back to another one. There would be a history of that vendor's invoices, kind of like the previous invoice screen. Over here, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is where I would assign a new delegate straight from the app. So it's a very easy one-stop shop way for your approvers to do things quickly and easily within their phones without having to be at their computer. Oh, that's Brett. All right, so I am basically done with the demo portion, and I'm going to start diving into the questions. And so, oh yes, how the invoice got into this. Yes, I
perfect. Yeah, this is for Troy Evans.
Yes, so there's multiple ways that the invoices can get into the system. We have a manual way, and this is a quick way that you can just get the invoice image in quickly, but we offer a scan and capture service. And the scan and capture service is really great because it's located here within the US. We offer an email inbox and a PO box if necessary, if you have paper invoices that are getting sent to you. And when they get into the scan and capture service, what happens is they go through an OCR, and so they're developing that XML document that's going to create those mappings and pull in the data for us. And So there's a level of OCR, but there's also a level of human interaction. And so what they do is they build out these templates that will be used for those vendors for your particular company. And so when things come in, they've already located where on that vendor invoice things are. And so it goes much quicker. And it's really just like a few hours from when they receive the email to when it gets into the system. So it's a very quick turnaround. And so that is what pulls in the information. If the PO is located on there and you're pulling in a PO invoice, that PO number in the XML document is going to automatically select that PO if it exists in Dynamics. The next one is, does it identify due date from invoice or a D365 vendor card? It's going to look at the invoice. So it's looking at that invoice image, the scan and capture created in XML. They're gonna have pulled in that due date from the invoice. It looks like Troy asked, does the invoice sit in the queue until an available receiving is available? As far as sitting in the queue, yes, it's going to come in as an unassigned unless there's a workflow associated with it already. And then any AP will see whenever they come in. So you'll see here, I'm in as me, but I'm seeing unassigned invoices in my queue. And so it's automatically pulling in any of my invoices and any of the unassigns. And I can actually change that view to just see mine. But when you first come in, you're going to see all the unassigned. So any AP that is wanting to handle that invoice can pick it up and pull it through. Let's see. Can you give some examples of what would cause errors? So an example, so in a PO situation, you would have, if it was outside of tolerance, if you had complete matching incorrect, if accounting distributions weren't matching. In a non-PO situation, you would have, we can set up validation rules for the non-PO. So we can have it error out at the AP if coding needs to be done before sending it to the approver. Or we can just have it be a warning if the approver is going to be able to code it. And so it's things that we either set up, or if there's an error in matching or things to that effect. So Dooap workflow replaces D365 workflow. Yes, so this workflow lives outside of the D365 workflow. It's its own animal, basically. So you can set up workflows outside of that dynamic restriction. Are the invoices being indexed by OCR? Did someone index them to get them in the queue? So yeah, so the OCR is creating those XML documents, but the level of human interaction is going and making sure that those are pulling in the right information. So looking at the invoice and looking at that that mapping, it's going to make sure those data points are pulling from the right area and then adjust the templates. Where are the invoices stored? Your invoices are stored in a dedicated database on our servers. We also have the ability to pull over any images into the D365 from the Dooap system. Can you specify queues for type of invoice? No, this is the invoice handling page. This workspace is is kind of static, but you can sort and filter by the invoice type if necessary. And PO and non-PO are not the only invoice types you can have. So if you wanted more flexibility with certain invoices, we can assign invoice types, different invoice types, and then you would be able to search and filter based on that. Who provides the scan and capture service? We have a third party that we work with here in the States that we use to handle our scan and capture, and we have weekly meetings with them, and we keep them updated, and they keep us updated with any issues or enhancements or anything like that. We work very closely with that team. Can this handle different formats of invoices? I'm assuming that means different file types, and yes, we accept most of the different formats, and even some we've done some tests with our scan and capture service with mail-ins or really terrible scans like that have been emailed to them, and they're pretty accurate at getting information from those particular invoices. And they also provide an error log to a specified email account of yours that will let you know if there's any issues that arise from particular invoices, and then tackle them from there. If you have different terms in D365 than what's on the invoice, how do you apply terms from the system? Feel like don't completely understand that question, but I'm assuming it means, so we're looking at so like if the invoice image defined terms, and then the terms pulling from D365 were different. And I know I can't get a response, but we have the terms of payment here, and so you would be able to update that. And I hope that answered that question. And that's all I have from my Brett messages. Brett, has there been anything else that has come in, or does anybody have anything else?
And not that I see, but what we'll do is we'll put together all these questions and we'll answer them in the most detail we can. And then feel free to respond back to that email with any additional questions, and we'll get that answered as quickly as possible. I feel that will be the best way to get everybody on board with any additional questions. And of course, we will have another webinar on April 9th, kind of covering the exact same thing, really a high-level look at the software and a chance to ask additional questions as well. But if you feel you want a more in-depth demo, definitely let us know, and we can definitely schedule that with you guys to really get more in-depth into what we do, more specific use cases for your team, and then we can even utilize any invoices that you have that you'd want to see in the platform. We can tailor that demo to fit your needs. So definitely let us know if that makes sense, and we will definitely get back to you guys. But to answer your question, there aren't any additional questions that you haven't covered. Okay. So if that is all, then we should be good to go.
Yep, right at the half mark.
Well, everyone, thank you again for jumping on this quick call with us just to learn a little bit more about Dooap and how we handle API automation. We'll follow up with an email to everyone who's asked questions, as well as all attendees on this call, so you have the questions that were asked and answers that were provided, and in a little more detail that we could cover on this call. And feel free again just to respond if you have any other questions, and we'll definitely have those answered. But thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again.